changing your life one story at a time. This is the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast with Editor-in-Chief Amy Newmark.
Hey, it's Amy Newmark with your daily dose of Chicken Soup for the Soul inspiration to make you simply happy. We haven't talked about love for a while, and it's Wow Wednesday, so I want to share a story about a premonition from one of my favorite books ever. It seems to be an endless source of great stories for this podcast, and it's our book, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Dreams and Premonitions. So in this story, Rebecca Guernsey tells us that her mother kept asking her why she didn't find some nice young man and settle down. But Rebecca was only 22. She didn't feel like finding a husband was exactly a priority. She was happy, working as an administrative assistant and looking forward to advancing in her career. She wasn't even sure that she wanted to get married. After her mother bugged her about getting married one too many times, Rebecca finally told her to stop, assuring her mom that when the time was right, the right guy would just show up and knock on her front door. 3 months later, Rebecca had the strangest experience. She woke up one morning and found herself saying, "Prepare, for within 6 months you'll be married." And she even had a specific man in mind, a man she had never met, but who she could visualize and describe in great detail. In fact, she was so distracted by this strong image of this man that for several days she could hardly concentrate on her job. After a month of thinking about this mythical man, Rebecca called her friend Teresa and told her about this dream or premonition or whatever it was, and this mysterious 6-month timetable for getting married. Rebecca told Teresa that the man had deep blue eyes and a smile that could melt your heart. He loved the outdoors, hunting, fishing, hiking, camping, anything outdoors. And he had something to do with Colorado, according to her vision of him. This didn't sound at all like the kind of man who Rebecca had expected to end up marrying, because she had never been an outdoorsy type of girl. She told Teresa that the man was athletic and loved all kinds of sports. Again, that wasn't Rebecca. She had no interest in sports. But he also had characteristics that were more in keeping with Rebecca's own interests. He loved reading, he had lots of books, and he wanted a wife who could cook, sew, keep house, who loved kids, and who was a strong Christian. Also, according to Rebecca's premonition, he was older than her but didn't look it, and he drove a little blue sports car. After Rebecca told Teresa all these details about this imaginary man, she was prepared for Teresa to start laughing. But instead, Teresa said, "I know that man. He's exactly like that, and he goes to my church. He's hunting in Colorado right now, and he just bought a little blue sports car." She had a shocked look on her face. Rebecca said, "You're kidding." And Teresa continued saying, "No, and he desperately wants a Christian wife who wants to raise a family, loves cooking and sewing, and would enjoy his library with him. And," she added, "he's in his 30s, but he doesn't look it." Rebecca was shocked, but happy to accept Teresa's offer to introduce them. A few weeks later, she went to Teresa's church, and without anyone telling her which one he was, Rebecca picked him out of 100 people. His name was Lyle, and a few weeks later, he asked her out. When he came to her house to pick her up, he knocked on the front door, and Rebecca told her surprised mother, "That will be my husband." 5 weeks later, Rebecca and Lyle were getting married. It was 5 months since she had woken up knowing that she would marry this man within 6 months. That day, Rebecca wanted wedding bells to ring, but the church didn't have any. So, even though it was February, Rebecca prayed that birds would sing for them instead. And sure enough, they had beautiful spring-like weather on their wedding day, complete with trees filled with singing birds. On their honeymoon, Lyle told Rebecca how his friends had tried to fix him up over the years, but it had never worked out. He told her about this one time when his cousin tried to get him to go out with one of her coworkers. And Rebecca realized that she was the girl because the cousin was her coworker. She had turned down her coworker's request, saying she didn't want to go on a blind date. Then Lyle told Rebecca about a waitress he knew who tried to get him to go to a concert with her new roommate. He was willing, but the roommate didn't want to go on a blind date. Yep, that was Rebecca again. Lyle told her about yet another setup that hadn't worked out. He went to dinner at a friend's house and learned that a single woman had dropped in on his friends unexpectedly an hour before he was scheduled to arrive. His friends had invited her to stay for dinner to meet him, but she had said no because she didn't want to look like she was there on a blind date. It was her again. Those 3 missed opportunities to meet had occurred over several years prior to Rebecca finally meeting Lyle. It really was meant to be. Rebecca and Lyle were married 33 years before he passed away, and they had 2 children and 8 grandchildren when she wrote the story for us. I'm Amy Newmark. Thanks for listening to the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast today. Tomorrow is Thoughtful Thursday, and I'm going to tell you another story about love, but this time a very different kind, about the unconditional love and acceptance of a grandmother. If you want to learn more about Chicken Soup for the Soul Dreams and Premonitions, which contains lots more love stories as well as other dream stories that will amaze you, you can read all about it on our website, chickensoup.com.